Atkinson, and she is a competition coach. She's also a rider, and she's been involved with administering and hosting Crochet International. So again, when you wear different hats, you have a bit of an understanding of all the things that go on to make things, to understand your sport a little bit better. All right, Samantha. Okay. Here, I should give you the mic, please. Sure.
Okay, so I am dressed as though I'm going to go cross country. So for eventing, which is the sport I'm talking about, we have 3 phases. So there's a lot to cover. You've got your dressage, which can be totally different than your stadium or show jumping, which is then a totally different sport, really, than your cross country, but it's all combined together. So going eventing, you have to know a lot about the rules and the differences between each division, or whether you can show up with the same thing for all 3 divisions, but what the differences are. So I will start with cross country. So cross country is kind of where you can get away with the most, I would say, color-wise, equipment-wise, all of that kind of stuff. I could wear pink breeches if I want. You'll see advanced level eventers that wear all pink. That's their choice, they can do that. So usually you wear like your club colors or whatever color you want, really. Your breeches don't have to be plain, they can have whatever on them. I wear a body protector. That is mandatory cross country. You have to wear a body protector in the warm-up and when you're out on course, and it has to be certified. So the rules for body protectors changed last year, and a lot of people have an older Tipperary style body protector and they're no longer allowed. So they have to be Beta 3 certified, which basically you have to look at your label and you might have to ask people some questions about if this is still allowed or not, because it has changed recently. So this one is Beta 3 certified. It's like a big purple label on it that says that. It's a Charles Owen brand, and I can use this. I can actually use this body protector in all 3 phases if I want to. I can use it in dressage, I can use it in show jumping, and I can use it cross country, but I have to use it cross country. That's the difference. So I'm wearing a pinny here with a number in it. In eventing competitions, they don't necessarily provide you with a number. So that's something to remember. They oftentimes do. They'll oftentimes provide you with a number, like a bridle number for dressage. But they might say, cross country, they might hand you a slip of paper like this and say, here you go. So it's really a good practice to get one of these pennies. You can order them online. Like I said, some shows will give you one, but not necessarily. So get one of these, and then the organizers print out just a piece of paper. You slide it in there, and then you're all set. You can wear this all 3 phases too if you want, as long as your number is visible. It's up to you how you want to kind of show it off. I have black boots on. That is one thing they do specify in the rule book. The boots still do have to be black or brown when you go cross country. So you can't wear pink boots. They kind of stop you there. You can wear half chaps and boots. That's okay. In cross country, they don't even say they have to be leather. So you could get away with some other kind of material for your half chaps or for your boots. Spurs, I wore these funny spurs today just because they have recently been added to the rule book. A Canadian company makes them. They're called spur sueders. So you're allowed to use a spur like this now. It's just been added to the rule book, but you can also use, there's tons of other spurs that you're allowed to use. They do specify in eventing that you cannot use rubber spurs up until after training level. So everything I'm talking about today is going to be, if you guys are familiar with the rules with eventing, kind of goes entry level, pre-training level, and then training level, and then prelim, intermediate, and advanced. So from training level below, the rules are one thing, and then from training or prelim and above is a whole other set of rules. So I'm going to talk about from here until training level, which is what you will be able to do with New Brunswick, basically. Okay, so I think that's me. Cross country as well, they do not specify that you need to wear long sleeves or gloves, but I would suggest it. If you've ever had to go through the woods and there's branches and all that kind of stuff, long sleeves are great. You might fall off, that helps too. And gloves, when you're going through water, which we do, and things like that, your hands might get a little wet. Gloves are helpful, depending on what gloves. Some of them aren't helpful, but they can help give you a little bit extra grip. So I always ride with gloves. My hat. Tatiana wearing earlier. This is called a skull cap. And in eventing, you'll see them a lot. You don't see them in the other disciplines, really, I don't think. I mean, no, they're not allowed in the jumper shows, but you don't see them very often. The skull cap is not mandatory in eventing either, but they do suggest it because of the protection that it can add. So they usually go further down in the back than a regular helmet. So if you had a fall, which eventing is a high-risk sport compared to other sports, generally speaking, the jumps don't fall down, you're going very fast at certain levels. So this can protect the back of your head a little bit better. Also, it doesn't have a brim, and there's a reason. It's not just a look. So I read a lot about it because I thought it was kind of interesting. What they don't want you to ride, and actually in Britain, you're not allowed anymore to compete with a helmet with a fixed brim. So what they say is when you fall and you hit your head, the brim can cause your head to go backwards like that if it doesn't break. So they say no fixed brims are allowed. Also, people have said they've broken and then they come down and broken their nose. But anyway, this is the helmet that's recommended for extra safety. You don't need it. So when I compete at kind of lower level eventing, or when I'm not going super fast, I just use my regular helmet. And I use that in all 3 phases, and it's totally fine and totally allowed, as long as it's certified. Okay. And for your helmet cover, there's tons of options. You could deck yourself right out. You can get a pink one, you can get one with a pom-pom on top, you could do your colors, whatever. In dressage, if you compete with a helmet like this and you have to wear a helmet cover, it has to be black. So I can still have my shiny helmet, as long as I have a black helmet cover. I don't have to take off my little pinstripe there. They're just statement. Okay, any questions about me or cross country? Okay, and I can use a whip too. I have one somewhere, I don't have it here. I can use a whip too. Okay, let's talk about Campbell. Hi, Campbell. So for cross country, you can use most of the things you use in the jumpers. So it allows any fit, honestly. There's not a lot of limitations for cross country because those horses often need a little bit more control. So you can use a lot of different stuff. You can use a hackamore, that's fine. Cross country, no fit, that's fine. It's all good. You can use a running martingale. No standing martingales are allowed in eventing, period. Jumping, dressage, cross country, no standing martingales. Or any gimmicky things like side reins or none of those are gimmicky. Yeah, but no standing martingales. For your reins, they can be rubber, they can be colorful, they can be leather, whatever. But they're not allowed to have any loops in them or any loops. Some reins, like Jill's reins here, have extra stoppers and things like that to help maintain your rein position. That's not allowed in eventing. I think maybe when you're going off a drop, so you can change your rein length or things like that, maybe that's why, but not allowed. So these ones in particular. Okay. So yeah, what Campbell wore to the jumper show, he could go cross country with. He could do show jumping with, in eventing as well. He couldn't do dressage in eventing with what he's wearing, but we'll get to that later. So this is totally suitable cross country. In eventing, they do not specify whether the mane needs to be braided for any 3 phases. They don't specify it. For cross country in particular, which we're talking about now, I like the mane to be not braided specifically. It could be in little things like this, but you need something once in a while to grab hold of. And cross country, more so than any other discipline, I would say, you want to make sure you can have mane if you need to. I always go cross country with either a breastplate or a martingale for a similar reason. A, it'll help keep your saddle in place. B, it gives you another strap to grab a hold of if you need to, which we do sometimes. The only difference, and again, this isn't specified in the rule book, but it's a good thing to take note of. Campbell's legs are very well protected. So I have boots that cover the front of his legs, the back of his legs. I have bell boots on. His back boots are very tall. They're made with like a really hard material, and that's because cross country, the jumps don't fall down. So it's not a time, in my opinion, to teach a horse to be careful and let them hit their legs. Do that show jumping or something, but they could actually really injure themselves cross country. So we try to, even open front boots, I wouldn't encourage, just because we want to protect the front of their legs if they do hit an obstacle. They also oftentimes have studs or corks in their shoes, and they could strike themselves in that way. So having bell boots that fit correctly is a good idea as well, just to prevent them from being struck with their studs that they wear sometimes. I don't have studs on to show you guys. So yeah, that's kind of how you go cross country. Another little tidbit of advice: a lot of people use like a neoprene style boot for their horse, and when you go through the water, that is like a sponge. It goes and sucks up all the water, and then they have to do the rest of the course with all that water in that boot. So I kind of stay away from absorbent material too when I'm looking for boots for cross country. There's a lot of information for eventing because we have to do 3 different things. So let's go back to show jumping now. So what Jill was wearing when she was doing her show jumping, official show jumping, or jump around, official, was totally fine for eventing. You could show up in that for eventing with your jacket on, with a collared shirt, has to be done up. You could wear beige breeches, you could wear white breeches. They don't really specify, as long as the breeches are a kind of a conservative color. You do not need to wear a stock tie when you're jumping. That's not mandatory in eventing. You can wear a tie if you want, or you can just wear a nice collared shirt that is zipped up. Jackets are not mandatory in eventing. Some people would be really happy to hear that. But from entry level to training level, you actually don't have to show with a jacket at all. As long as your shirt is tucked in and it has sleeves of some sort, so short sleeves are fine, long sleeves are fine. They don't encourage capped sleeves. Same thing cross country, you have to have a sleeve of some sort. You can't go sleeveless. They'll say no to that. And yeah, he could wear totally what he's wearing now and do his show jumping. Again, boots are not specified. You do not have to wear boots. You could use your cross country boots show jumping. It just probably wouldn't be the best idea because they might knock the rails down. Or dressage. Maybe people would be surprised to hear. You could go dressage in that saddle. You do not need a dressage saddle. Just like Taylor said, to go eventing, you can compete all 3 phases with the same saddle. It's totally fine. You could use that saddle pad in dressage. You could use a numna in dressage. It's not specified again, as long as you have an English saddle and a nice saddle pad, basically. It doesn't have to be any specific color. No boots in dressage. You need a snaffle bridle. So you couldn't use anything like this that has leverage or a curb chain or anything like that. It has to be a snaffle bridle. And they get pretty specific into what bits that you can use, but again, it's laid out in your rule book, so you could go there and check it all out to see what exactly is allowed for the dressage phase. What else for the dressage? Rider, again, yeah, you don't need to wear a jacket, I said that. So, whips. You can use a whip in the dressage arena, that's fine. Can't be longer than 75 inches, 120 centimeters, but you can use that in the dressage test. You don't have to get rid of that. Warming up, you can't warm up with draw reins or anything like that you'll see in the hunters. That's totally not allowed in eventing. No contraptions in the warm up. Yeah, and no rattle spurs.